Hello, lovelies. Welcome to Narc Free Formula. My name's Freedom. Thank you for joining me. In tonight's episode, I wanted to talk about how to avoid the narcissist or the psychopath, which is easier said than done. But if you stick around, I'll let you know how. So please, just before I start, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and feel free to share the video on other social media platforms. All right, let's get into it. So, there are 9 key ways to avoid the narcissist or psychopath. But before I go into that, I just want to quickly just explain. First thing you need to understand is that according to the US National Library of Medicine and National Institute of Health, the percentage of the population that have NPD is 1%. So that's 1 out of every 100. And antisocial personality disorder, so the psychopaths, that's 4% for men and 1% for women. I will just say, though, although those odds sound pretty good, like 1 out of every 100, I think that the statistics are slightly skewed because both these cohorts or both these groups are highly secretive, skeptical of doctors. They don't like hospitals. They don't want to be diagnosed. Basically, they don't want to be caught out. So they will avoid going to the doctors or being evaluated in any way. So the statistics are probably a little bit wrong. The second point is that narcissists and psychopaths are literally everywhere. So, you have them in your life right now. You just don't know about it. So they are quite literally in every socioeconomic group, from rich to poor and all the groups in between. Every ethnic group, from every country, every gender, every sexuality. I mean, really, you can't and they don't walk around with psychopath or narcissist flashing on their heads. So they are there. They are across the board. You'll find them in churches. You'll find them in nightclubs. You'll find them, helping out at the lost dogs home, and you'll find them in the boardroom. Literally everywhere. Some professions do have a higher element of antisocial personality disorder. So the positions that have power, such as political jobs, lawyers, those kinds of positions that, feed people's egos and give them power, is one of the places that you will definitely find the psychopaths. And drug dealers also. They're also the criminal world. Criminal world is probably the most likely place that you'll find the psychopaths and the antisocial personality disorder lot. Anyhow, look, I suppose the main thing is, when people are asking the question of how to avoid them, I think what they're asking is how to avoid being involved romantically. So let's answer to that. And just excuse me while I dry my glasses because I just jumped out the shower. All right, so the first point is you need to educate yourself about narcissistic personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder, which is the narcissist and psychopath. Knowing that you've been abused is one thing. Getting support on social media, and that's great, and that's another thing. But getting a bit of an education would probably be your best bet, because you can't avoid something that you can't identify. So getting an education is definitely the probably number one key tip to how to avoid having history repeat itself, especially if you have a pattern of this kind of thing happening, of being involved with the narcissists, going from one to another, one psychopath to another, that kind of thing. So number 2 is learn to listen to your gut and trust your own instinct. Because, as I said, because they are literally everywhere and they don't walk around with these signs flashing on their head saying predator, be warned, They're good at what they do. You've fallen for it once before, so you have the tendency and the possibility that it will happen again. So you need to learn to trust your own instinct and intuition. It is there for a reason. We have it because our bodies are continually sourcing information from our environment, from in real time, and probably even faster than real time. We are trying to keep ourselves safe in an unsafe world. So we are sourcing information, and sometimes it's not logical, but you'll get, literally a gut instinct or a hunch, or your intuition will be flaring up. Something will be, there'll be something saying to you, no, what he's saying isn't right. It just feels wrong. When I finally started to trust my instinct and trust my intuition, that changed the entire ball game for me. I spent years being talked out of how I was feeling, talked into believing that, no, I was just being silly. I was being silly. I was being paranoid. I didn't really know what I was talking about. But until I finally just went, no, it doesn't make sense. And it's okay I'm okay to sit with it. It's okay for me to not have all the information, and I still know that I'm right. Once I got to that point, as I said, I progressed leaps and bounds. The beginning of the end was well in sight then. All right, so number 3 is take your time when you get to know someone. So don't be in a rush to jump into a new relationship. You've been through a lot. You've been through war. You've been sleeping with the enemy. Your entire reality and everything. You've gone through this awful cognitive dissonance. Really headfucky stuff. So don't be in a great rush to jump into a new relationship. You probably don't have much to offer until you've sorted through a lot of stuff. You're probably quite vulnerable, and more than likely you will probably just attract the same kind of person. Which brings me to number 4. Don't be telling your damage to anyone who will listen. One of the things that women have a tendency to do is talk about our previous relationships. I don't know why anyone would think that a new bloke would be interested in hearing about your previous partner. I wouldn't want to hear about, if I was dating some bloke, I wouldn't want to hear about his ex-wife or his ex-girlfriend. That's the kind of stuff that you need to save for, your friends or a trusted counselor or therapist. Because the truth is, when you're sitting there telling people that stuff, one of two things is going to happen. Either one, you're just going to turn them right off because obviously you're still damaged, you're still dealing with stuff. Or two, if they're a predator, they're going to be sitting there going, tell me more. And I say this, and I say this from personal experience, witnessing, it's quite horrific actually, witnessing, so my ex-husband, when he was grooming new supply in front of me, mind you, so this little ninny head, like 23-year-old ninny head, was sitting there telling these horror stories about her previous relationships, about some of the horrific stuff that men had done to her, including dropping her out in the middle of the bush when she had her period and hoping that wild dogs ate her. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh God, don't be saying this stuff in front of him. Because at the time I knew that he was, well, I didn't know that he was a psychopath, but I had a hunch and I knew that I had to escape. And I was watching him with glee, listening to these horror stories. And now, hindsight's a bitch, now I can see that, yes, he was grooming her. Yes, he was paying attention to what level of abuse she'll put up with, because he automatically, when they started their situationship, became physically abusive with her. So, as I said, don't be telling people about this stuff. Normal, healthy people don't really want to hear it and aren't, they're not qualified to deal with it. And the only people that you are going to attract are the predators. And they will want to hear all about it because they will want to know what your damage is. They will want to know how they can use it to their advantage, how they can manipulate you, and how much abuse you will take. All right. So, number 5, how to avoid getting romantically involved with a psychopath. So if you are starting dating, watch for the red flags. If you've educated yourself, you know what the red flags are. If you trust in your instinct, you will feel when the red flags occur. Anything that doesn't sit right with you, anything that makes you go, Remember that song? So things that make you go, right? Anything that makes you kind of go, yeah, that's not right. It just doesn't feel right. Learn to trust your instinct. It is there for a reason. It is trying to keep you safe. So when you see the red flags and you get the instinctual warnings, pay attention. And don't ignore the red flags. Don't justify it away. Don't say, oh, well, oh, yeah, so he beat his ex-wife, but, he had a drinking problem back then, right? Because remember, the narcissists and sociopaths, they tell us their truths. They hide things in plain sight. Because in their mind, they almost say, well, you knew this stuff about me. Like, you knew that I was violent. You knew. So in their mind, it almost justifies their abuse and treatment of you. So pay attention to what they're saying. Don't be so quick to get a man in your bed or get a man in your life. Don't be in such a rush that you overlook this stuff. This is important stuff. If he's telling you that he's been abusive, he's an abuser. If he's telling you, he's got a drug habit, drinking problem, gambling problem, if he's in debt, if he's bankrupt, if he's got no friends around him, if he's got no job, if he has horror stories for the ex-wife and the exes, pay attention to this stuff. It is all red flags, and it is there. If you ignore it, what happens after time, the more red flags you ignore, the less you notice because you've stopped yourself from paying attention. All right, so number 6, make sure you've got a support network. So this means having friends around you and family. So if you don't have family, work on having good friends around you, people that you can trust. Don't be in such a need to have a man, because a lot of women will go quite literally from one abuser to the next purely because they need support. They need someone to love them. They need things, right? And need makes you vulnerable. Sure, by all means, have a relationship when you're ready, but when you're equal, when you're whole, when you're strong, when you're not going in from this position of weakness, when you're not going into the relationship in a position of vulnerability. So make sure you do have support structures in place, which leads me to number 7. Be independent. Make sure you've got your own money, your own car, your own house. When you're starting a relationship where it's his car, it's his money, it's his house, all of those things make you vulnerable and make you more likely to put up with abuse and bullshit because, you're thinking to yourself, well, he only shoved me and where am I going to go? I've got nowhere to go. And I've got no money. And he's sorry and he's saying he's sorry. It'll probably be better tomorrow. He won't do it again. You start justifying it to yourself. You start minimizing the abuse. You start, having to weigh it up. Like, do I stand up for myself and potentially be homeless? No one should have to make that choice between being homeless and being abused. So work at getting yourself into a position of power first. Make sure you've got a home, got a job, got a car, got friends, got support. So you're going into any relationship in a position of power. Number 8 on how to avoid narcissists and psychopaths is set your standards high. So there is no, I mean, you know, I love men, right? I do. I love men. I think men are fantastic. There are some beautiful men in this world. But that said, there is not a man alive that is worth putting up with being abused or settling for less. So for me, my standards are set high. Before I had them far too low. My self-esteem was lower. My sense of self-worth was lower. I felt like I needed a man. Whereas now, a combination of, I suppose, that I've grown into myself, my age as well, I'm not ever going to settle for anything less than what I know I deserve. And, there's this saying, and it says, oh, I've got a man, but he beats me. Oh, but I've got a man, but he cheats on me. But I've got a man, but he lies to me. But I've got a man. Having a man who does all those things, it's not worth it. Better to be alone, be single, and have the benefits of friends. I mean, you can have sex. Just because you're single doesn't mean you're not going to have sex. But as for committed relationships, just take your time, figure out what you want, what you're prepared to put up with, and stick to it. So if someone comes into your world and they transgress your boundaries, or they overstep the boundaries in some way, or let you down, don't waste time trying to fix it, make it work, whatever. Uphold your boundaries, uphold your standards, and just keep on looking. Or don't look. Like I said, what's the great rush? I'm kind of viewing relationships a little bit differently these days. Certainly don't need one. Yeah, certainly don't need one. All right, darling. So number 9, and my final point for how to avoid being involved with a psychopath or a sociopath is love yourself enough to walk away. So if you are dating someone or you are in a relationship, and if things do start to change, if he does become violent or abusive in any way, have enough love for yourself to walk away. Because the first time that you stay, might as well be the 100th time that you stay. You're basically just setting a precedence. You're telling him that it is okay to hit you. You're telling him that it's okay to terrorize you, to abuse you, to lie to you, to cheat. And, the narcissist and the psychopath, they are, it's in their programming to try and basically undermine your sense of self-worth and value, and to get you to accept less. Basically, he wants to have all the benefits of a relationship with doing the minimal amount of work and effort. So if he can get you to expect less, want less, ask for less, put up with more abuse, if he can, manage your expectations, he will manage them down, and he will ramp up the abuse until you cannot take it anymore. And that is just not a relationship. So why anyone would want to go from one psychopath or narcissist to another relationship like that? I mean, no one would. And these are the points that will keep you safe. So just to run through them again: educate yourself about antisocial personality disorder, learn to listen to your instinct and trust your gut, take your time getting to know someone. Don't be telling everyone that you meet about how damaged you are. Watch out for the red flags. Get yourself a support network. Be independent and set your standards high, and love yourself enough to walk away. All right, darlings, I'm going to go. And thank you for joining me, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.